Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of where sports meets life. You know that we have had a connection to the American Athletic Conference since its institution. Before a name, before a logo, I was talking with Commissioner Mike Oresco when the Big East was transitioning, the old Big East, to what we now know as the American Athletic Conference. And as we hit the 10-year anniversary, they just felt like making history, adding 6 new institutions in all sports and becoming the largest they've ever been as a conference for the American. So in this new era series we're doing with the American Athletic Conference on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, it's my honor and privilege to focus this special on North Texas, the University of North Texas. You know them as UNT. Some of you know them as the Mean Green, North Texas spelled out, however you want to call it. They are a school led by Jared Mosley, Vice President and Director of Athletics, on site, on location at the University of North Texas. I love the hashtag Take Flight UNT. And so we got a lot of stuff to talk about here today with Jared for the first time as a guest on the show. Jared, how are you?
Doing great, Dan, and certainly appreciate you having us. And we're certainly excited about the opportunity to join the American Athletic Conference. So many positive things, and as we try to grow our athletic department that we felt were a tremendous fit. So we're excited and appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
Absolutely. And Jared, first and foremost, why did you think the American saw what was the value, in your opinion, that can be seen at North Texas? Because I know when everything came about and the decision came to fruition on my birthday, October 21st, 2021, Ren Baker was leading the athletic department. So, obviously he was seeing that transition. And then you come in here within the last few months. What is it about North Texas that you believe is so enticing to the American Athletic Conference?
I think there's so many, when you look at the boxes that you would need to check for, your attractiveness to conference affiliation. We're a Carnegie Tier 1 research institution, over 45,000 students, and probably one of the most vibrant markets, across the country. DFW is a tremendous location, not only from exposure, but when you look at where we get to recruit from and our call home base there, like just a lot of positives. We've invested heavily in athletics over the last 7 years to try to put ourselves in a position where we were competing, in the top end of Conference USA, and trying to do that at a level where, we felt like if an opportunity did present itself, you certainly had the ability to have an option that sets you up for success. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be in conferences that are attractive to your fans, that elevate the brand of your institution, but that you can jump into and you see a path to be able to compete for championships, which is what we want to provide for our student athletes. And so I just feel like the timing of all those things, and just the momentum we've had as an institution really made a lot of sense when this opportunity presented itself.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, seeing everything that you have to offer, what attracted you? I mean, when you talk about what you think attracted the American, why did you want to lead this athletic department specifically at the University of North Texas?
I was fortunate. I arrived here with Ren shortly after his hire back in 2016, and so one of the things that I think has been extremely helpful is I was a part of day one, just kind of his vision to get our athletic program in the place it is today. And we don't always get to necessarily pick which conferences we go to. You have to have invitations, but our job as athletic administrators to make sure that we position our institution as best we can for when opportunity does strike. And I'm very fortunate to have kind of been a part of that roadmap and understanding the plan that got us to where we are today. And, I think the opportunity to lead through this transition is really exciting. I mean, it's one that we kind of have a blueprint that worked for us, and moving, from the bottom third of Conference USA to the top third, and that blueprint's not going to change. The one thing I do feel we're fortunate in is we've been aggressive and been able to get some momentum on the resource side. So we're not coming in at the bottom of the heap, in the American. So I feel like there is a path for us to position ourselves for success long term, in the new conference.
Yeah, and when we look at success to build upon, there's my kind of connection in recent history to North Texas. I go back because I'm a big NCAA tournament guy. And when I cover the tournament and I tell you that we do a bracket challenge and I break down the bracket, I'm telling you, Jared, when there's 68 teams are announced, I do a show on these 68 teams. So that when you're filling out your bracket, if you watch Wake Up Call, you cannot have the excuse that I didn't know something about this team. We talk about every team, who they beat, what they did, what's notable to know. And I go back to the NCAA tournament when North Texas got their first ever NCAA tournament win in men's basketball as a 13 seed up against 4-seeded Purdue, overtime back in 2021. Kind of ironic because it was in March of 2021. And then in October of 2021, it's the announcement of joining the American. So I'm sure it didn't hurt that you were able to be out there against the Big Ten, be on that stage, and get that victory. And I would love for you to share your thoughts on that night when North Texas was a school that was on, all over the place in replays and became one of those teams, one of those bracket busters that was talked about for days. And really, honestly, that spotlight moment on the Mean Green made me stop and think, I want to know who these guys are all about. I mean, I want to know what this is all about. And that team specifically really hit me a certain kind of way to the point where after that, I was like, I just want to see them keep winning. So I'd love for you to give your thoughts on that moment in history.
No, that was such a phenomenal opportunity for our institution and more so for our student athletes. I mean, I think when you talk about the magnitude of March Madness and you see teams like we had, that year, and even, the COVID year was a tough year, with everything getting shut down, but we had felt like, Coach McCaslin and his staff had done a great job of building the type of program that year in, year out could compete in March Madness. I think that's one of the tough parts of this job is you play in conferences and how tough, that conference was in basketball, and always probably 2 or 3 teams that deserved the opportunity to show itself and what it could do in the postseason. And so for our young men to get that chance and to capitalize on it was just phenomenal. And, you just realize on, the grind of a season to watch kids be able to cut down nets and to be able to have that moment where, I mean, making the tournament's a big deal, but you win a game. I mean, that very few people get a chance to experience that. And so, the momentum we got from that, and then, even in this past season, being able to capitalize on winning an NIT championship, it certainly cements in my mind our ability to build programs here that can compete on the national stage.
Yeah, and speaking here with Jared Mosley, once again, VP and Director of Athletics on site at the University of North Texas, the Mean Green joining the American, and this being Wake Up Call's new era series of the American Athletic Conference. I was going to get into that. The 2 years later, first time ever NIT champions, and you play a foe that you know all too well in Conference USA and UAB. Rice was also in the NIT. And so you see these 3 schools that are going into the American in the NIT. The championship of the NIT was going to be some future American as the champion and the runner-up. You win. You face off against UAB. Charlotte wins the CBI. FAU makes their first ever Final Four. You got 5 out of the 6 teams going in, making some moves here. And there was a chance that every single postseason tournament in men's basketball was going to be won by a team going to the American Athletic Conference with how close FAU got. Just what it says about not only North Texas, but about the future of the American Athletic Conference with all of these teams coming in, winning championships, be it the CBI, the NIT, or in FAU's case. Really, honestly, in my opinion, a bad call away from going on to the championship.
No, I think there's already, rich tradition and history, in the American Athletic Conference when it comes to not just basketball. I mean, really across all of their sports, they've done very well. But I think when you look at the institutions coming in, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a tough league, but one that, night in, night out, fans are going to really get an opportunity to see high level of basketball played. And, I know our coaches and staff are, looking forward to the opportunity to have some new opponents in at the Super Pit and to expose our fans to, again, some of the great history and tradition, that there has been in the American Athletic Conference.
And as you had spoken about before, with your connection to North Texas and working under Ren Baker, I mean, coming in September 2016 and serving for more than 6 years before taking over now as the VP and Director of Athletics, you were the Associate VP and Chief Operating Officer. There was a lot of different things that you worked on, from financial to operational, administrative services, looking at strategic initiatives, as well as human resource issues, event management, student services, marketing, promotions, strategic communications. There's a lot to be said there with you developing the message and making sure that that sticks in marketing. It sticks with your student athletes on the human resource side. When it comes to facilities, I mean, you were really working all of the angles of North Texas, which I can imagine made it advantageous for them to take you in the role that you had and to elevate you to the VP and Director of Athletics. And just what you could say about the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that you gained over more than 6 years that provided for you to lead this athletic department with what I think was more than enough experience to understand who the Mean Green are and who the Mean Green are going to be.
No, I'd have to start and say I think one of the most valuable pieces is we've had an unbelievable team in place here at UNT, that Ren put together during his time here. And I think anytime you face transition, when you have things going well, you've got opportunities to keep momentum going and some continuity, and then you get to fast track kind of through. I tell people it's kind of the blessing and curse of being an internal candidate is there's times I wish I'd have had the 6-month hit pause, listen to everybody, kind of get your wits about you, enjoy the moment of being, having the opportunity to be, the director of athletics. But, the reality was with a transition going on, we had multiple hires we had to make. Like you look at just all the things that have transpired in our first 5 months, the ability to have, an executive team that we've worked together for a number of years and are all on the same page and lockstep with kind of where we need to take this thing. And then all these things coming at you, you're just able to have a sense of, I never felt stressed or frantic in that process. I felt like we had a great, again, roadmap already in place that we just had to go out and execute. And so, I think, if you look at had we had a massive turnover or transition across our staff, I think there are probably certain moments of this transition that we probably would not have hit the same way because you'd have had somebody else coming in just trying to figure out where to start and where to go from here. And so it was certainly a benefit, and I'm thankful for that opportunity.
Jared Mosley here at the University of North Texas, VP and Director of Athletics on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our American Athletic Conference New Era series with 6 new institutions coming in to give them their most membership ever. And when we look at football, 14 members overall, 15 in connection, Navy and football only, Wichita State and everything but football, and North Texas being a full member in all of their athletic programs. Speaking of athletic programs, I'm going to go take you back here. We're going to go down memory lane to Abilene Christian here. And I know Abilene Christian because you also hear about, the NFL talent that can come out of there as well. You played basketball for them, when you finished up 11th on the all-time list at Abilene Christian as far as being a scorer and 8th leading rebounder in school history, Bachelor's of Science degree in 2000, Master's in Education Administration in 2003. And then, we look from there, Associate Athletic Director from 2001 to 2003, and then the Director of Athletics at Abilene Christian for a decade from 2004 to 2014. bring me into being a student athlete, playing basketball at Abilene Christian, then moving on to work in their athletic department before taking over as their director of athletics for a decade.
I tell people all the time, one, I had a fantastic experience as a student athlete, at Abilene Christian, and certainly my time there really shaped the person I am today. A lot of tremendous people there who poured into me, early in my career and kind of helped, guide me down the path of athletics. Originally, I thought I wanted to coach and be an old man and eventually move into administration, but had an opportunity to slide into the administrative side fairly early. But again, just had a tremendous experience there. And I tell people all the time, the opportunity to go back to your alma mater and to serve as an athletic director, to be able to, create and have a part in the type of life-changing experiences that we can, when done right, provide to young men and women. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. And I learned so much in that job, that you get that job when you're 27. You really have no clue what you're doing, but you learn so much, certainly at a smaller institution where you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to roll up your sleeves and really, get in the details of what's going on in order to be successful. And, to be able to kind of cut my teeth in a situation, again, with a lot of great coaches and people who get you, help you along the way. It was tremendous. And I think, looking at my experience, similar to Ren's, coming up in a smaller Division II program, I think it certainly shapes the way that you approach leading an athletic department. And it's certainly, I think, given me some insight, stepping into this opportunity here and kind of how I lead and how I engage with our coaches and our staff.
I mean, you're a native of Lockney, Texas. You go to Abilene Christian. You work in the athletic department, as we spoke about, and then take over as director of athletics for a decade. Then you go to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, chief executive officer and president from 2014 to 16. Then you come to North Texas. So we have seen you as a student athlete, a native, and an administrator in the state of Texas. What has it been like for you to not only rise up the ranks to where you are right now, leading the athletic department at the University of North Texas, but to spend all of this time in the state of Texas, just what that's meant to you to be in the Lone Star State for your collegiate, student, and athletic careers. And then from here on out, you've stayed in the Lone Star State.
I may be one of the few in all of college athletics who's had the ability to not have to cross state lines, for a job and to move up in my path. And so, again, God's blessed me with a lot of tremendous opportunities. I will say I've had some people early on that kind of pointed me in a direction. I had a mentor of mine, tell me, he said, "Hey, you need to sit down. In the world of athletics, you can chase a lot of different opportunities, but it doesn't mean every opportunity is right." And, he said, "Hey, sit down and really try to decide what are the criteria you're going to look for that are important to you in your career, with your family, all the dynamics that come into play." And he said, really try to whittle down the criteria for what you're looking for. Because he said, you don't want to take a bad job in the heat of the moment just because it's exciting and you feel wanted. Really try to, roadmap those types of things. And so for me, geography was always, I didn't imagine I'd have the opportunity to just do it in Texas, but it's worked out that way. And it's been a huge blessing for us. And it's kept us close to our family, but we've also been, from ACU to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, now that are doing, a lot of great things across the board.
Yeah, and being there in the state of Texas, you hear it in the South all the time, God and family. And then, you hear from a lot of people, God, family, football, but God, family, athletics, whatever it may be. You brought up blessings, you brought up God. I mean, I don't push it on the show as far as, I've never been the person to push my faith on anybody, but I'm also not a person to hide it. So I tell people, believe whatever you want to believe, but I got a picture of Jesus staring at me in the studio right now. I have the serenity prayer on my wall. Everything I got a cross around my neck. I mean, everything that I am and will ever become has a connection to God, and I am nothing without him. So if you would oblige me at least, to just share your faith and why you feel comfortable saying God has blessed me, and to bring up, words like that when it comes to faith, because we live in a country where it's not as openly spoken about. So when somebody says it, I'm like, yay, it's not just me. So I would love to get your thoughts on it.
No, hey, faith is a cornerstone of who I am. I mean, it was instilled in me early in my life from my parents. Very fortunate to have been raised in a home where that was a priority. In my own journey, like going to Abilene Christian University, which is a phenomenal faith-based institution where it's in the fabric and DNA of everything that they do. And I had the opportunity to be around coaches and administrators who led with intentionality around that. And so,
Yeah.
it has been a huge part of my life. And so my faith is extremely important to me. Much like you, I'm not going to push it on anybody, but it is what I lean on in every decision I make, and every opportunity that's presented. And I know the opportunities I have been because of, some people may call it good fortune and luck, but I feel like God's orchestrated, whether it's been through people or, just encouragement or introductions. I mean, I can point to very specific interactions that were nothing that made sense from a guy coming from, a little 2,000 people population in Lockney, Texas, in remote parts of West Texas, to be able to have the life experiences I've had. He's certainly orchestrated a great life. And I want to use the platform. I think athletics, to be honest, is one of the most unique occupations to have, in that we get to work with a variety of people from a variety of backgrounds. And I just want to steward that well. I want to make sure that we can leverage the lessons that can be learned in and through sports to help shape people's life and create better citizens and people who are equipped to go out and lead in what is a little bit of a crazy world right now, and to do that in a way that brings stability and a sense of pride for those of us who get to call this home. And so again, faith's important, and will always be a cornerstone of what I lead with.
Yeah, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head in my life. I don't call them coincidences. I call them God incidences, because there's no way that I just happened upon the people that I met, the situations, the places that I was at the perfect time, something that was said, something that happened. That there's no way to say that everything was all by mistake. And I know that God has done a lot for me in my life, and I appreciate it, including this conversation. To be able, I'm going to walk away from this conversation saying to myself, that was really fun to hear, someone else, to hear Jared talk about his journey, and to talk about how it's a cornerstone, and that it still is, right? Because you could have lost it along the way in a paycheck. You could have lost it in notoriety, in power, and you didn't. And I think, nobody walks a straight line in faith perfectly, but to know that you're still on that walk after everything you've been through and all the opportunities that have come your way, that says a lot about you, that you're not sitting there with a spotlight on yourself saying, look at how awesome I am, because some people do get lost in the spotlight.
No, and I think back to my own life, like the two things that have shaped it, and really where I choose to kind of spend a lot of my time and energies. I've been very fortunate to have experienced a lot of love and a lot of grace in my life. And so when you're leading an athletic department, you're getting the opportunity to grow with 18 to 22-year-olds in some of the most transformative parts of their life. Like, you want to lead with love and love on people well, but you also want to be mindful that we all need grace, and be there to encourage people when they need a little pickup. So it's a fun opportunity for me to be a part of an experience through college athletics that certainly left a big imprint on my own life, to be able to now move that and pass that on to student athletes for as many years as I've got left in me.
You know, for you, what's exciting about it? I mean, to be VP and Director of Athletics at the University of North Texas, why does that energize you? Why does it bring you to work every day? What is it about the interaction with the student athletes and the coaches and all of the different programs? Because I mean, I've had the blessing of, you know, people talk about football all the time when it comes to college, right? But we've covered everything on here from rowing to volleyball to soccer, lacrosse, baseball, softball, field hockey, basketball, football, so on and so forth, swimming and diving. So I've gotten to know so many different student athletes, and you have to have a love and a passion and a drive to get you up in the morning, or else you struggle to do it. So why do you get up? Why do you come to work? Why do you enjoy this job?
Yeah, I think it's easy for us today to look around at all the things that are outside of our control and think the world's coming to an end in college athletics. And really, we talk about the topics that are impacting the very, very few at the top of the heap. And yeah, I just remind people, like, you look at the number of student athletes that there are in, take NAIA all the way up through every level of the NCAA, Division I, II, and III. I tell people all the time, my passion for what I wake up every day, like, I treat this just like a classroom. Like, I think what we provide students in a pathway to get an education, something that's going to serve them the rest of their life, like that's not a guess on whether that impacts people's lives. It changes generations, and it's a great platform. But I also know that, and I tell people, it's no knock on what takes place in the formal classroom, but I think when done right, college athletics for a lot of our student athletes will be the most important classroom they ever set foot in every day. I mean, you've got people that are around them more than any professor, faculty member, staff member. Like, you've got an ability to help shape and put somebody on a path that is going to set them up for the rest of their life. And so I think when you view it like that, and you're not viewing it as, you know, worried about the wins and the losses and all that stuff. I come back to a quote that, you know, I share. My staff's probably tired of me saying it, but when I got this job, I was really thinking through, when I had my first interaction, to tell our staff what's our platform and what are we trying to do. I was working out one morning listening to a John Maxwell podcast, and he says, success happens to you, significance happens through you, and once you've tasted significance, success will never satisfy. And I'm a firm believer, if we take care of providing significance back to people, whether that's student athletes, coaches, donors, alumni, the success part's the byproduct of that. And so, you know, my goal is as a department, I hope that we're operating at a level that we're providing significance back to everybody we serve. And when we do, the wins come. Everybody wants to be a part of a culture where they feel they're appreciated, loved, they're excited about, they're, you know, all those things that when you've been in a good organization, you know what it is. And when you've been in a bad one, you realize what it is. And so I want to spend my time and energy not getting too caught up in, you know, wins will always be important in athletics because it's what we're measured by. But I truly feel like when we're doing all those other things right, you're creating an environment for success to happen naturally.
Yeah, you know, the definition of significance, the quality of being worthy of attention or importance. When you hear that definition, what does that say to you? Significance, the quality of being worthy of attention or importance.
You know, I think when you're providing significance to people, you're providing value back. Like, it's you know, I do it kind of gets back to, you know, whether even things as simple as giving. Like, I try to, in the things I support and give to, I don't get too caught up in, I try to give with no expectation of anything in return. And I feel like when you're in the business of relationships, which we are in college athletics, whether that's trying to increase engagement with fans, when you do that authentically and you're doing it with, I want to do something to make your life better, easier, your diploma more valuable, and I'm not expecting anything in return, those things tend to come back. I mean, I don't, and so I tend to try to focus on those areas where we can provide that value and that worth, back to people, because I just think it's a life principle, one that I've experienced and I believe in. But I've been around too many really good teams. The ones that have cultures that last, they've got leaders at the top who are focused on the little things around significance.
Yeah, giving something meaning, letting people know that they matter.
Yeah.
Because success, like you said, I mean, success comes and goes, it's fleeting when you come to wins and losses, because even the best teams are going to look at the Patriots now. So, it comes and look at the Cowboys. I'm sorry, Dallas. A lot of people just got really mad, but I was like, I mean, I grew up watching them and loving those teams, and it's been a long time since the mid-90s. But success in wins and losses will come and go, but significance, like you said, the art of making someone feel important and seen, that will last a lifetime. And if somebody feels that they have meaning in what they do, they have purpose in what they do, and they're valued, those people will fight for you and for the mission and for themselves and their dreams forever. You could get somebody to fight for a season, but to get somebody to fight for a lifetime, you let them know that they have meaning, they have worth, and that God, even in identical twins, nobody's truly ever the same. So if you have that DNA footprint that's only yours, and you have that special meaning, and that meaning is shown and magnified by the leaders that you have, like in your case as a VP and director of athletics, then you're going to want to fight and you're going to want to win. And when you graduate, you're going to want to come back to North Texas, and you're going to want to wear mean green, and you're going to scream as loud as you can at games, and you're going to be a part of it forever. Significance creates forever. Success creates temporary. That's how
that might be the perfect way to put it. And I think in the world of athletics, I mean, you mentioned it, it's cyclical. So it doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to have a down year or two. And at the end of the day, like, we're going to be measured. Like, if all you can tout and people can say about you is the number of wins in a column or number of championships, and people hated you in the process of doing that, you really hadn't accomplished anything in this life. So those types of things are fleeting and they are temporary. And so chasing something that, provides value back to others. It's what I pray every morning, that whether it's my own kids at home and my wife, or, somebody he puts in front of me, that I'm putting myself in a position to just be a good steward of, the things he's given to me in abundance, which is, like I said, a lot of love and a lot of grace.
Coming here from Jared Mosley, speaking a lot of truth and a lot of positivity here on Wake Up Call in our American Athletic Conference New Era series as we step toward history. Before we play something that Jared doesn't know about until right now, before we play Rapid Fire, where you and I will go away from the football world, the basketball world, your history, anything. We're going to get away from sports. We're going to jump right into getting to know you better, getting to know me better. We'll put each other on the hot seat. But before we do that, 2 final points. The American is blank as we step forward. How do you fill in the blank of what the American is becoming with you joining the other 5 institutions and every one of the incumbents? What is the American on the precipice of becoming?
I mean, I think it's dynamic. I mean, I think you've got, a number of institutions that are very similar to us, and that we are investing heavily. We're experiencing success. We're on an upward trajectory. You look at the institutions that are coming in with us and just their markets and their growth. Like, I think it's a dynamic conference that'll continue to thrive.
And the last one before rapid fire, to someone who's never been to Denton, Texas, how would you describe Denton to somebody who knows nothing about the community?
Denton, I think, is probably one of the best college towns, in the country. We're on the outskirts of Dallas-Fort Worth. So we definitely have our own vibe, very much kind of an arts and music town. A lot of A lot of live music, a lot of really great food spots that aren't chains, a lot of mom and pop local business owners who have poured their life into creating a really cool place. And I think, when you look at the number of college students you have not only University of North Texas and our 45,000 students, you've got Texas Women's University, you've got it's a college town. There's a lot of youth in the community, and so it definitely has that feel, just like any other great place you could. Place to have that college town feel. We've got the luxury to drive 30 minutes and get anything we wanted to in the big city, but it definitely has a really cool vibe, and it's a great place to raise your family.
Love it. They should use you to be the spokesperson for all those PSAs, all those commercials. So with that being said, Jared, we're going to play rapid fire. We're going to do 3 apiece. We'll go back and forth. You get to ask me first.
What team are you most looking forward to covering in the American Athletic Conference?
Oh man, that's not fair. So, it's so difficult because any of the schools in the American, right, like the incumbents, they would tell you that I've covered them all equally. And I just love
any locations you haven't been that you look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, so I would say, yeah, there's a bunch. So I mean, Charlotte's one of my favorite cities. Been that way for a while. My Charlotte FC, my MLS team is there. So, I haven't been doing, I've covered obviously the last couple of years UNC Charlotte, but I know Charlotte. So, I'd never been to Dallas, Fort Worth, or Arlington before. Never been to those areas. Earlier this year, covering Tulane, seeing them beat USC. What's up? And so going and watching that, and after it, there's a bunch of media people running up to Mike Oresco. He moves everybody out of the way and he goes, Dan, and he gave me a huge hug, and he's like, this is great. So, that was really cool to experience that with Mike and with Tom and everybody out there. So, I think returning to the Dallas area and having the Cowboys be my second favorite team, with the Jaguars be my first, that's cool to do that for the AAC summer kickoff. I'm excited for that. But I will say this is what I will say, because I know where you were trying to lead me, and this is what I want to know. So I'm going to say that I'm excited to come to Denton, not because I'm here with you, but because I believe I was born in Syracuse, New York, but I believe that half of my blood was born in the South. My country music, that just God and faith and family and all of that. And my cooking. I love to cook. I love barbecue. I just love good Southern cooking. So
we've got a lot of spots. You need to plan a couple days on the front end and back end, and we'll get you acclimated.
So that's what I'm saying. So I knew where you were leading me. I want Denton to show me why they have the best food in Texas, because I'm not going to say where I went. I'm not going to say where I went, but I went to a place in Fort Worth that I was told to go, and it wasn't what I expected. So I need Denton to step it up for me in Texas. I need to have a little come up there.
We'll get you taken care of.
All right. Okay, so going off of food and barbecue in the South, I went on a date recently, and I want to ask you what you would do if you were in my position. So I went on a date, and I was at a barbecue spot, and I licked my fingers because the food is good. Now, the date that I was on said to me, "Why did you lick your fingers? Don't ever do that again. Like, I don't approve of it." What would you have done if you were at a barbecue spot on a date, the barbecue's good, you licked your fingers, and your date told you you're never allowed to lick your fingers again?
I mean, does this date listen to this podcast?
Who knows?
I don't want to get thrown under the bus, but like I mean, that'd be a tough one to overcome in the South. Like, we lick our fingers when something's good. We can go wipe them down and wash our hands later, but like in the moment, it's finger food.
That's what I told her. I said, I never thought I'd be asked the question, why do you lick your fingers? So I had to think about it. I said, because the food's good.
Yeah.
I mean, what other reason would you? I mean, if I'm in a
I'm
restaurant,
trying to conserve paper. I don't want to use as many napkins to wipe off all this sauce. Like there's a lot of great,
yeah,
explanations for that.
yeah. But I will tell you that I know you asked, well, do they listen? The dates didn't last long after being told not to lick my fingers to barbecue. So I'm still looking. Maybe that right person, maybe that girl lies in Texas somewhere where she won't yell at me for eating barbecue and licking
Oh
my
no,
fingers.
you'd find one here.
So what's your next question for me?
Um, since I don't know you, what's your hobbies outside of multimedia and what you do on podcast?
And I appreciate that. So I have been involved in music, in singing and writing my own music since I was a kid. I've been singing since I was 3, and I wrote over 40 songs up to this point. I've also put music together in the studio. So I love music, screenwriting. I will make a movie at some point in my life. I want to work on a Spider-Man movie. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody could make a better one. And that's not my ego talking, that's my passion and love for the character. I was an extra in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Andrew Garfield. I want to do The Amazing Spider-Man 3 because I think I have a story that is original in a world that lacks originality in a lot of places. So I would say screenwriting, which I love. Going to the movies, I could do that every week, multiple times a week. I love learning. So music, movies, and I like making people laugh. So I would say comedy, and I'm a huge sports card collector. If you
All
were
right.
in the studio right now, you would see that I've hidden so many cards, but they're all over the place, and I have some really
This
cool.
doesn't count as my third question, but what's your most prized card you got?
That's a good question. I'm going to grab it right now. It's staring at me.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, I do.
It's
So
not locked up somewhere.
nope, it's right here. So I would say if I had to pick my most prized one, I mean, it's difficult because there's a bunch of ones that I like that I have, but my great uncle, or my uncle Bill, who passed away recently, he gave me a bunch of stuff. And I mean, he had stuff that's in cases, he has packs unopened, he has, Shaquille O'Neal signed sneakers. He had all this stuff, and you weren't allowed to touch it. Like it was in a closet upstairs, and you just didn't go in there. And it wasn't even that it was locked. It was just like you had this respect for him that if you did it, you would like run downstairs and cry and tell him that you opened the door. And so the last time I saw him, he handed me a bunch of stuff, and this was something he gave me, and I'll never forget it, and I'll never sell it, I'll never do anything with it. It's written on the back, this is 105 of 1,000, and it's funny because it has a connection to Texas. Ironically, when Nolan Ryan was a Texas Ranger, he signed this card on the card, and it's in a plastic casing. So I have Nolan Ryan's signature, and this is from my Uncle Bill. And every broadcast of Wake Up Call that I do, it is staring at me at almost eye level, and I will never ever do anything other than honor that in a very important place wherever I am.
What that's a great card, but even better connection and the meaning it has to you.
Absolutely. So you just asked me about the hobbies. I want to know your hobbies since we haven't talked about yours.
I don't have many. I'm a creature of habit, so I'm a 5 a.m. workout guy every day of the week. So I love to. That's kind of my outlet. Love to spend time with my family. We enjoy traveling together. So I like to travel when I can. I do like to play golf. I picked it back up now that my kids are a little bit older.
Okay.
Not very good. My goal is to try to get where I'm at least serviceable and don't embarrass myself in a round.
How I
But
feel.
and I like you. I'm a I've gotten into, I love to cook, but anytime I can get the smoker fired up on a weekend and throw a brisket or uh, prime rib or anything on the smoker, I love to smoke meat.
You said brisket. You had me at brisket because I'm up here in the north, and whenever somebody says, "Oh, da 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 makes brisket," I'm like, "Let me try it first. Don't be telling everybody. Let me see what this is all about." So yeah, no brisket. That sounds perfect. I just want to know. You talked to me about going to places. I want to know when I'm going to get an invitation to the Mosley household because I want to try the brisket. That's what I want.
Hey, if you come, if depending on the weekend you're coming up here, if I'm not busy, I can throw one on the night before I go to bed and we'll make it lunch. Like we'll just do we'll make it happen.
See? God directs you to the right places.
Hey, and hey, if we do this, like it's if we do this and it's not freezing cold outside, we can just kick it in my backyard by the pool, and that view out there is not bad either.
See, I told you. That part of me was born in the South.
Open
Saying all
invite.
the stuff to me, and I'm like, all right, I'm on a plane where I'm going now. I'm ready. So, final question for me. What is it?
It doesn't have to be athletic personalities, but who's somebody that would be high on your list that you'd like to meet, spend some time with?
That's a good question. If he was still alive, without doubt, it would be Robin Williams. I would say now, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle. I would want to spend some time with, and hopefully I will get to Damon Stoudemire, because I'm a Raptor fan and he's now at Georgia Tech, and I cover the ACC very heavily. I've covered Georgia Tech for about a decade. So I look forward to that. And yeah, I mean, there's a bunch, but in the movie world, I'm trying to think who I'd want to sit down with. I've gotten to meet some people in our super powered pop entertainment show, actors, actresses, illustrators, writers, authors. So I feel really spoiled with that, like Mark Dodson and who's been connected to Star Wars. So if it was the movie world, I like my guy Anson Mount, who we're building a friendship, so I appreciate him. I'd probably want to hang out with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah,
because I think the best costume I've ever put together, where I used my actual Walkman with the batteries that are over a decade old and it still works. And God being God, I'm walking around with my godson trick-or-treating, and I turned it on and I put the antenna up. They thought I had programmed songs on it. I was finding radio stations that were playing the Guardians-esque music, and they're like, "Oh, you put that on there?" I go, "No, that's God handling the radio." So I would want to meet the Guardians, and I would want to be in their next movie. And I like Chris Pratt, because Chris Pratt, being Star-Lord, he has publicly spoken about God and how God loves you and is there for you. And you don't see that in Hollywood. So I think that's a beautiful thing, that one of the front people of a franchise is unafraid to say that God loves you. So I'd want to hang out with Chris Pratt for a little while.
That's one of my boys and I, we catch almost every action movie that comes out. So that's one, every time they drop a new one, we're there as soon as we can get there. So
well, before I give you the last question, let me tell you how I experienced Guardians recently. So doing the Disney show we do Diz with Dan, and doing Super Powered Pop, this is what I did. I went down to Florida, stayed down in Orlando. The night before the movie came out, I watched Guardians Volume 1, woke up in the morning, finished the rest of it, watched Volume 2, watched the end of the holiday special, the end of the Groot special. Then I went to Epcot, rode the Guardians ride in the front row, then got off the ride and went and saw Volume 3.
that sounds like the only way to do
it. So it was fun. And actually, right over my shoulder here, I have my Guardians of the Galaxy box from the theater, and it has Rocket behind it. So yeah, so it's in the studio. All right. So my last question for you: if you were in the Guardians of the Galaxy, what character would you make yourself, and who would you want to fight?
I don't know that there's anybody I'd want to just pick out to fight, but I mean, I'm always a fan of Chris Pratt's character. Like I think he's just like I would like to be able to carry myself like just with that kind of swagger.
Okay.
You know, all superheroes should be kind of be wired a little bit like he is. It seems like he I don't know if there's anybody though that I'd say I just wanted to fight in that out of that movie.
Oh, if you see my watch, it has the
Oh yeah.
Infinity Gauntlet, so probably have to go up against Thanos.
Oh yeah. Well, Thanos would, I mean, if you're gonna go for the best, like you probably might as well, you know, go after the top.
Absolutely. So I'm excited about what's to come. Legendary Star-Lord will return, as we know. So with that being said, for Jared Mosley, VP and Director of Athletics at the University of North Texas, in this new era of the American Athletic Conference on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our special series. Jared, it's the first time that you and I have gotten to interact, but I am so excited for everything that is to come. And this has been one of my most favorite conversations. God, barbecue, Guardians of the Galaxy. What else do I need?
I mean, hey, the next conversation we'll add to that list, but that's a pretty good start.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks, Dan.